Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Boring Show. Fun fact, this episode has been causing us a lot of problems. This is now the third time we've tried to record this. The first time, somebody forgot to record their screen, and the second time, we had all sorts of background noise and the curses of filming from home. But hopefully this one is the right one. Third time's the charm, right? And so our plan today is to talk through a little bit about some of the more skeleton app things. So the last time we left this skeleton app off, we were writing some tests to check this settings controller thing, and we left it off with some basic tests, a mock or a fake, and left it there. And we posed the question of what would it look like to have the test for the local storage as well. So Craig is our second here. What do you want to talk about with this local storage for the skeleton app? What should we do?
Well, we want to make sure that all of the code that interacts with our local storage like connection, which will be the package probably called SharedPreferences. We want to make sure that all of our code that interacts with that does what we expect. And we don't want to test that those external systems work correctly. We'll trust that SharedPreferences' own tests handle that. So we trust that once we pass the baton to SharedPreferences, that it will be faithfully run around the track. But it's our job to make sure that we do, in fact, pass the baton. So we want to write tests for our code that calls SharedPreferences code. Does that map to what you're thinking?
Yeah, definitely. And we wrote some of this code. And so instead of writing it all again, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking through this. So here I've got the settings controller open on my editor. And this is the settings controller that is actually part of the app. So not part of the test. You see here, we're in the source settings controller. And what we did last time, that was unfilmed, but what we did was we added a shared preferences option to the settings service. So as Craig was saying, we did add tests to it as well, but we really tried to focus on whether the actual things that we were storing were coming out of it correctly. And so here's the test we ended up, and maybe we can start there. Do test driven walking through code maybe, and then we'll maybe get to writing some other stuff later. But here we've got the this shared setting preferences settings service. There's a lot of S's in there. That just gets a setting, sets the setting, gets it again, makes sure that everything is okay. Right?
Yeah, and that shared pref settings service, and I think you were just on that file, but it's been a month since we wrote this together. We wrote that class, right? Yeah, it extends our other class. This is all our code that is currently on the screen, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and one thing that surprised me about the shared preferences library is actually how ready it is to be tested. That really exceeded my expectations dramatically. If you want to show that mock method again in the actual test file, it was on the screen a second ago.
Yeah.
But this was very, very neat, I thought.
Yeah, so if you recall from the last time we were looking at testing out the settings service, we had this fake settings service that we created, and it overrode these two different, the getter and setter basically for the theme mode, which is the only setting that a skeleton app has right now. But we have this theme mode, and we had this for the initial version of this test suite, we had this fake settings service that handled all of the getting and setting. And we were debating whether for the shared preferences one, whether we were going to have something similar or maybe exactly this thing again. And it turns out that shared preferences has this nice set mock initial values thing. And Craig, do you want to talk through a little bit about what we discovered with this?
Yeah, that's a good summary. I was certain that we were going to have to duplicate what we did with our controller tests on both our service test as well. And to kind of disambiguate those words, by the way, we're using service to mean this is some of our code that wraps an external connection, like it wraps when the logic of our app leaves the code that we write. And then controller, that's kind of more in a state management-y kind of space. So that is the glue between all the different layers kind of conducting the show. And we had already written that test for the controller, the state management kind of stuff. And that's all in our code. So it made sense that we would kind of mock out everything. But then it gets trickier when you want to write these tests for when your code actually, when the logic of your app leaves the code that you write and starts interacting with an external system. And so we found that this set mock initial values method, A, just exists, and then B, takes a map of initial values. And not only does it store those initial values, but it changes the entire internals of shared preferences so that it doesn't actually rely on a real storage mechanism. Presumably, it makes it all just run in memory, much like what we did for our controller several months ago now. So once we found that method and kind of played around with it, we found, you can see it right in here, that changes the entire behavior of the shared preferences library to not expect that there is an underlying device and an underlying file system. And it is just like, you give me a value and then you ask for it again a second later, I'll give it back to you. And that's, kind of the extent of shared preferences once you call this method, which is incredibly handy for testing. So that really streamlined how we shot through writing those tests.
Yeah, for sure. We're thinking that it would be a challenge to figure out, are we going to have to set like a shared directory on the file system to store these things? And how is it going to carry over or not, or leak over into future tests or not? And turns out we don't have to worry about that because of this handy set mock initial values, which sure enough does just use a in-memory shared preferences store, which is really just a map. And that's more or less it. And I wonder if we click into this. It's got a data, which is just a map. And yeah, it looks like that's just it. If you want to get, it just gets all the things from the map. If you want to remove, it just removes it. So yeah, that's super simple. It's great.
Yeah, nice. That got us going very quickly. And then in the episode that will never be, we wrote those tests. And did we do anything else? Or is the place where we want to pick up today basically rerunning the test suite, making sure that gremlins haven't changed the code while we weren't looking, and then proceeding? Or did we do anything else? I don't think so.
There was one other thing we did, which was we, in the SettingsService actual class, we factored this out into this abstract class. And the original version of this SettingsService was not an abstract class. It was just a straight up class that had a basic implementation of a theme mode and update theme mode, where it was returning those values. And so the SettingsService, reminder that the SettingsService is the thing providing the data, and then the controller provides that to the app. But the service, the initial value for the skeleton service was just, here's a couple of values, a couple of variables, let's store them and return them. And so we've extended this out to say, if we have this service that is providing data for our users' settings, there's a variety of different places that we could potentially get that data from. One of them is shared preferences. You could imagine maybe a cloud-based database that is providing those values via the internet. For our initial version, we were using shared preferences, and so, but we wanted to future-proof ourselves and allow different implementations of this settings service. And so we abstracted it out and then implemented the shared preference version.
Yeah, and one thing I'm noticing here that was not on our radars at all a month ago when we made this change, if you scroll up just a couple of lines, we've got this map there, 16 through 19. And the newest version of Dart makes this whole bit of juggling obsolete. I see that you're on Flutter 2.5.
Ooh, yes.
So we couldn't make the change yet where enums have a lookup by name method by default. But that could be potentially worth doing if you want to run Flutter update, and then we can just keep chatting and check back in a minute. One of the changes we could make is using some of the new enum trickery to simplify how we go from strings back to full enum values. And the reason we have to do this is it doesn't really make sense to store an enum in shared preferences. You've got to just store primitive data, so strings, numbers, that kind of stuff, in any long-term kind of cold storage, so to speak. A hydrated, Dart runtime enum doesn't make any sense, of course. So you just store the name, and then when you reload the app, you've got to take a string out of cold preferences, shared preferences, and figure out which actual enum that value is. And until like a week ago, there wasn't really an easy way to do that. You had to kind of juggle mapping all of your strings to the actual enum values. But there will now be a theme mode dot get name, or actually I forget exactly the path to it. I've never typed it yet myself. But we'll be able to do that directly.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out once this upgrade goes through. You're suggesting then, he says with a question mark, that we probably won't need this map at all?
I think we will not need it. Yep. My understanding from looking at sample code for the new enum API is that it returns a nullable version of itself, the enum. So it might be, it's your enum dot get by name or something. I don't remember exactly what it is. And that's going to return a nullable your enum. Because if you just mash the keys and then run that, it's unlikely to find one unless you've also mashed the keys when you defined your actual enum values. But if dark or light go in, or system, I think is our other one in this theme mode, then it just gives you that back. Presumably it maintains this exact map internally, essentially, is what I'm gathering it does. And then just like any map lookup by key, you get a nullable response because the key might miss.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. So the rest of this implementation is really nothing more fancy than your standard usage of shared preferences, where we have a little bit of asynchronicity here with trying to get it from these shared preferences, because we don't know what implementation that particular shared preferences is going to be using. It might be file-based, might be in-memory based, depending on your platform or whether you're in the tests. And so we have our asynchronicity, and we have to await it. Fortunately, our original settings service already had these as futurified. I'm just making up words as we go along.
No, that's the technical term.
Futurified? Yeah. Is that the right one?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So we do a nullable lookup here. So we're probably going to be able to change this as well when we update the new map. It looks
slightly, because we still
slightly,
we'll still want to account for the situation where there is no variable stored in shared preferences at all. And then in that case, we'll fall back to system.
Right. That's fair. Yeah. So it's we're still going to have this double question system.
At the front.
Just the left-hand side of this is going to be different. So I'm now in Flutter 2.8. So let's, I don't know, let's just type here somewhere. You're saying we can do.
Yeah, I expect our first step will be to up your Dart version in pubspec.yaml.
Yes.
You'll probably need a minimum Dart version of 2.15.
Where's my pubspec? Pubspec. 2. Not 12, but 15.
Yeah.
And then we can redo my Flutter. Oh, it's already doing it. Thanks. Thanks, VS Code, for automatically running it.
What a pal.
Yeah, super helpful. That was great. Okay. And you're saying we can do theme mode dot.
It's somewhere in here. I'm not seeing it now. Oh, God. No, it sure isn't any of those.
I'm gonna try restarting the analysis server, maybe.
Oh, that
analysis server restart.
Yes. If that didn't happen after your Flutter update, then yeah, we would definitely be living in the old world. Still not seeing anything extra.
No.
We might need to just look this up real quick. Dart 2.15 enums. I bet we'll find it quickly.
Okay. Here's a browser.
I vaguely remember there being some token between the enum class and the method, but I don't remember what it would be.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Here is our launch blog post. Enum, improved enums in the Dart core. Okay, so we should have
values.
Name for the.
Oh, it's on values.
It was so values.
Yeah, it's just the next section down. Here it is.
Values.byName. Okay, so I did see the values there, so it is there.
Yeah.
Values.byName.
Aha.
And that just passes a string?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. And so you're saying this will return a.
Yeah, so if you pay attention and read through that middle code block, actually the one you're on is probably going to do it as well, sorry. That should highlight it. Oh, as names map, that's actually slightly different, the bottom one. I think we can do the top pattern.
Yeah, because the as name maps could allow us to make a minimal amount of code change because we have our modes map here. That's essentially what that would return then. But really, we're just doing the individual lookup anyways. And so we're trying to say, give me the theme.
Yep, that's the
right?
string.
What is theme is the
because
string.
it's nullable. This is basically where we make the null check.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what we should do. Yes. You're typing what I was going to say, so keep going.
Should we do like theme mode dot system dot name?
Yes, I love it.
Like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to do. It's a little bit
just like this horrible one-liner.
It's a little bit redundant because we know it's system and then we get its name and then we look it back up again. And of course it's just system. But I don't know. I think it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, it does help us. Where does this mode key? Theme mode. That's the key we use to store in the actual shared pref. So we still need that around, but we're working towards.
Yeah. So
look at that. Modes map is unused.
We did it.
Boop.
Nice.
Hooray.
All right. Anything else?
And now
looks like it's still happy about the rest of it.
Yeah. So let's try Flutter test. And in theory, we should pass all of the tests. This is taking longer than I would have expected, but
first one after running pub.get, I think it has some other stuff to compile. If you were to run it again right now, I think it would be 2 seconds.
Let's take a bet. 1, 2.
Oh, don't let me down.
You lied to me, Craig. It was more than 2 seconds. Oh no, it was 7 seconds. But yeah, it's quite a bit faster still.
So pretty good overall. Yeah, we've got
Great.
that little bit short up there. We're leaning into Dart 2.15. And by the way, I often want to say Dart 2.15 as if it's a string.
Oh yeah.
And it is not. It is a number.
Wouldn't 2.15 imply that it's a lower or an older version if it's like 2.1.5?
Yeah, it's definitely wrong.
Versus 2.15.
But my brain keeps wanting to go there.
Or that it's a true decimal and not a version number. So 15 is actually a smaller number than.
Yeah, I don't even know how to parse what I keep wanting to say, but it definitely is incorrect.
Anyways, yeah, no, I'm right there with you. What is this squiggly underline?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Private field could be final. Do we want it to be final?
Oh, yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Okay. I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We'll accept the recommendation from the analyzer. Okay.
Oh, actually, wait.
Great.
Let's run the app. Is that going to work? Because this code will now, or maybe it was already going to run. I'm just thinking this code won't work until widgets binding, whatever that thing is called, until that's done.
Ooh.
But is this code going to execute before that finishes?
Ooh, that's a good question.
We should run the app.
I'm going to start an emulator here. It's going to take its sweet time getting started.
Yes, it will.
And need one of those new fancy MacBooks for streaming.
Yeah, that will be the day.
That would be the day. While this is starting up, now that that's up, I'm just gonna hit go on my VS Code because it selected the simulator. That's gonna take a while to build. While that's building, what's the next thing that we want to do with this app?
That is a great question. There's one piece of functionality in it to start, which is the theme mode picker, and we just tested it. So feeling pretty good about that. We can.
And that's from we've got this settings view page, which actually connects all of our controller and service for the settings, and has this theme mode drop-down button.
Mm-hmm. So we can brainstorm next features. I'm a little reluctant to say this because we've been doing a lot of tests around this exact feature, but we could also write tests for jumping from our UI to the controller to make sure that when you click the drop down, the controller is actually informed of the change.
Right, so that would be effectively tying into this. We have this drop down menu.
Mm-hmm.
And can we, with tests, select or fire its onChanged effectively, select one of these different items, and then validate that the controller gets the updated item?
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
And we probably should do this. This will tie a nice ribbon on completely validating the full loop of the first feature. And
definitely
then it'll be time to add new bugs.
Move on. Yes.
So this will be a widget test, which is also exciting because they're way harder. And I remember nothing about them.
So there's the widget test that comes with any app.
Starter app.
And because we're going to have to do this pump widget thing in order to get it actually built.
Yeah, and one thing that will also be really quite interesting is interacting with a drop-down because it's a two-step. It's a two-step interaction.
It's a two-step dance. Not now. Dart Dev Tools. We'll come back to that. So this is still in our settings. So we're going to do, what is this going to be? Settings UI test.dart. I'm going to go ahead and copy some of these things in because they're going to be useful. Nothing like copying and pasting code to get started. But I am running, so I'm going to go check out the running.
Oh, yeah. Well, it didn't crash, so we're good.
Didn't crash?
We already know that it worked.
Light theme, dark theme, system theme, dark theme.
And now do a full restart.
I was just going to close it. Now it's terminated. Now we're going to have to relaunch it. Go, go, go.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. No tests were found. Oh, I was running the wrong thing.
Oh.
Try again.
The real app.
No tests were found in an empty main function. What do you mean there was no tests found?
Yeah. You're not looking hard enough. All right. Yeah. So this will keep going, and I'm hopeful that we can just use 2 tap, grab a widget, fire a tap method, and then run another find on the widgets that drop down, fire a tap on that, and hopefully that'll be sufficient. But I've never actually thought about this kind of a widget test before. So we're really doing it live here.
Yeah. And I do notice, by the way, that we did add the Flutter binding for the widgets here. For the I believe that should have.
Yeah, what I wasn't sure about, one thing I've actually wondered, and I genuinely do not know the answer to this. What is the difference between having an instance variable that you initialize in the class definition, which is what we're doing for this SettingsServices prefs object, right? This initialization is happening in the class definition. What's the difference between this or if we did it in the constructor? I don't know. But this suggests that it's not happening at class definition time because the class is fully defined and ready to go, and we enter runtime and all of that goodness before widgets binding is called. We'll have to look that up. Get back to everyone.
Yeah, it's a good question. I remember us discussing this, but I don't remember. I think we ended up in the same place. Still just an open question.
Mm-hmm.
But it does work. Look at that.
Yep.
Dark mode persisted.
Nice.
Excellent. I'm going to stop this while we write because it's going to eat my computer alive. So we're doing this systems UI test. And so I want a new group and some test widgets. And the test widgets one takes a widget tester.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to want to, so this example widget is just kind of testing a arbitrary material app widget. We don't want to do that. We want to use existing in-app things. So probably get a handle on this settings view.
Yeah, let's see where the settings view is used. I wouldn't be surprised if we need to use a material app for our widgets to render, right? Because they might realize, I don't have a material to draw myself on.
Yeah, and that drop-down widget might be...
Yeah, I suspect we'll need
part of a material page route.
Oh. The drop-down is its own route?
Well, no, not the drop-down isn't, but the settings view is part of the settings route.
Oh, I see.
But I was saying the drop-down button here is probably part of the material library.
What package are we? It is. Yep, we're in material. If you look up at the top, your file breadcrumb.
Oh, yep. So it almost certainly relies on having that material app and scaffold. Okay, well that's that.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
Let's
Test
do this
widget?
widget test.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm just going to do some copying.
Love it.
To get started at least. So we're going to have a group testing the settings view drop down.
Nice.
And this takes a widgets tester.
We looked at it more than 1 second ago, so I already can't remember. I think that's right.
Yeah, no, exactly. Widget tester, which is an async function because we have to await for that to be built out. Okay.
Why doesn't it like
So-
your... Oh, maybe it's just because this whole block of code is incomplete. There we go.
Yeah,
Nice.
no, it's not. So then that ends the test widgets. That ends the group. And
Great.
now we can build.
Mm-hmm.
So that looked like we needed a material app, right?
Mm-hmm.
Material app with
Just basically make the home page the settings view, right? I think, yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
were thinking as well. Nice.
well, should it be? I guess we probably don't need any of the scaffold theming.
Oh, we could. Oh, does the settings view not bring its own scaffold?
Ooh. Does the settings view bring its own scaffold? It does. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't need to. But we do need this settings controller.
Yep.
And the settings controller in turn needs a settings service.
Mm-hmm. But I think we'll want to take inspiration from our previous controller tests.
So our controller test uses this fake settings service. And so should we maybe pull out this fake settings service and do its own
I think
its own class file here?
Yeah, I like that.
So we can reuse it. New file. Fake settings service.
Nice.
.dart. And we'll extract this.
In you go.
Cut that. Paste that. And it needs stuff. Oh no. What does it need? It needs our settings service class.
And then probably just material.
And it needs theme mode. So that needs material.
Cool.
Okay. There's that. Settings controller test now is going to need to... Can you suggest just importing that? Thank you.
Amazing.
And now we've got that. What is this? Why is this not?
Oh, because it used to be in the same class. So it was allowed to access an underscore variable. Let's just make it not underscore. It's a test class, doesn't matter. That would be my vote.
Okay.
We can't.
Rename.
Because the getter is that. Let's just delete the whole idea of a getter. Let's just have the variable. Let's just have the attribute. Yeah. Does that make sense? And do you agree?
So you're saying instead of this theme mode getter?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's async. That's the difference. Well, maybe we just call it theme mode inner or something to get around the underscore.
Well, why do we need it here?
Oh, I guess we just didn't want to await. So that is something we could easily fix. That function's already async. So that could be expect await service.themeMode equals
right
themeMode.system.
Await service.that.
Yep.
What are we complaining about now? Applied to future theme mode, which is not a future, but it says future.
Yeah, it's super duper was. What's that?
Do I need that? I do. It's a function.
Oh, you have to helps to call functions. Oh.
Yeah. You can't just await the reference to a function. You have to actually call it.
I thought
But
thought it was a property. Thought it was a fancy getter. Good thing you're at least paying attention.
Only sort of. I'm just following the analyzer, and just doing whatever the computer tells me to do.
Yeah.
And now,
who's programming this?
Not me. The Dart analyzer is doing it all for us.
Yeah.
So we're importing our fake settings service because we're going to do the same thing. From our controller test, we need a controller with this particular service.
Yeah.
Oh, and we have to await load it because that's what the controller needs to do. Which means we also need to import the controller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And what is this complaining about? This value of type null can't be assigned to a parameter.
Why does this sound familiar from 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't know why. Controller. What was that again?
So a value of type null
it's just
can't
const.
be assigned.
You just have to get rid of const.
Just need to give it a const.
No, sorry. At the beginning of line 16. We just need to change that to be final.
Oh, it's just
our settings controller isn't constable. That's funny. That's a different word. It means a very different thing.
Yes, our settings controller is not a police officer in an low rank
town.
Yeah. Yep.
But right, because and we did bump into this 2 months ago. I remember now. Yeah, the controller can't be constified because the service uses shared preferences, and that can't be constified either. So that sure is our issue.
Indeed. Okay, so I've created this app with just the settings view. I'm now pumping that widget.
Which, for viewers who may be unfamiliar, basically gets the Flutter test environment to, in kind of a fake virtualized Flutter runtime, fully hydrate this widget. And it's not being rendered to a screen. There is no screen. It's just the test. But the code that's kind of breathing life into the widget doesn't know that. Well, this is very faithful.
I'm just writing what you're typing.
Yeah, very faithful.
I'm just typing what you were saying. Yep, exactly.
Cool. So now our widget exists in memory, and we can start working it.
So we need to find this widget and tap on it.
Yep. So this is where I would pop back to the settings view and see what the outermost widget is that actually needs to be tapped on.
Probably the drop-down button.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is correct.
And I wonder if it would have the option to choose which item. I mean, this is a const array, so we might be able to say, like, select the index 0, 1, or select the index 2, 1.
Oh,
maybe.
I think
what do you?
Yeah, I think we would either want to select the text values of the drop-down items by their raw text values, or we could give each one a key and then find those by key as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, I get. My hover is blocking me from doing things.
Yeah, I slowed down the tooltip to like 500 milliseconds or a whole second or something, and made my life 50,000 times better.
Hover.
Yeah, I do
like 800.
Yeah, just more. it's so aggressive.
Larger than that.
Yeah. Yeah, what else do we need here? Oh, I see. So now we can just call tap. Well, this is probably nullable. It doesn't know if it's going to find one.
Yeah. It's also an iterable. So
find first by type, maybe? Or that. And first will then probably be nullable because the list could be empty.
That's true. What do you expect to return? Finder.
Okay, that's
so
right.
It's chainable.
Yeah, this is what I have to look up every single time. So
yeah.
I think it's worth storing the finder result in its own variable. And yes, also what you're doing, basically look it up.
Just figure it out with the help of Google.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. I mean, there's so many good examples of this in the framework code. And that thing that you just named button, I don't think that will be the button yet. Because it's a finder.
Right, so that's going to be the
button.
Finder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, finds one widget. We have to do that as well. How did we not pass that parameter?
Find widgets by a specific, find a specific widget instance. I mean, that the specific instance is kind of what we want here.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Find by widget, child widget. Right. Oh, so we could do what this example is showing, where so we create our settings view as its own variable, pump that into a material app.
Yep. So
and then find that specific thing.
Yep.
And
but that test, its finish line is just verifying that the widget is on the screen, and then we want to go further and interact with it.
I mean, if we do this model of having this child widget variable defined that has the settings view, and then we hydrate our widget tree with pump widgets.
Mm-hmm.
Could we not just do like child widget dot whatever and interact with it directly, since we already found it? We're not trying to test that it gets built into the tree properly, which is what this test is doing.
I see what you're saying, and I honestly don't know. I don't know if I've seen a test written that way, but I'd love to find out if it will work. So let's try.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah. Settings. This can't be const. It must be final.
Your const by default game is very strong.
Yeah, I've been writing some JavaScript lately outside of work, so it's nothing but const everywhere.
Yep. It's actually
okay, so this
20 lashings if you ever write let.
Heaven forbid var. Oops, I wrote a var. Oh no. We're not going to do this anymore anyways. So
well, our var is there let, so it's still only 20 lashings.
It's true. Okay, so and this app is almost redundant then, or not necessary, because we don't care about the material app.
Correct.
We care about having the tree hydrated.
Yep. Okay.
So then my theory is that we could have a settings and then just interact with it directly.
Oh.
But we don't have any ability to touch it.
Yeah, I think I know why I haven't seen tests written this way. And I think it's because it doesn't work. The tap method that we want to call, I think, is pure test machinery. It's not going to be on the widget by itself.
Yeah. So let's look at the documentation. Tap, drag, and enter text. That sounds valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Widget tester provides methods for tapping, like tap. Widget tester.tap. Oh, it takes a finder. Okay, so we're going to need the finder anyways, but we can then do what you were suggesting earlier about storing that finder for the, and so we could do the find by instance of this settings class that I created. So find dot by widget.
Oh, this is cool. I didn't know this was a thing.
Settings. And then we can do tester.tap that finder.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah, seems right. And you
Now
probably
we have to do something with.
I bet we need to do tester.pump again, as that allows the UI to keep updating. Basically, it will allow the drop-down menu to join the party.
Okay, so then you're saying after we do the tap, do another.
Another await.
Await.
Yeah,
tester dot.
And we might want pump and settle. Because I don't know if the drop-down button has an animation, but it sure might.
Yes, it sure might. A lot of the material stuff does, so I would not be surprised if it does as well.
Okay, next up.
And then we want to find, like, I don't know, find the drop-down button item with a particular string value, maybe?
Yep.
Right, so if we wanted to say select the dark theme.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't like the idea of saying let's assume it's the third item. I would prefer to say find the one with the text of dark theme. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we want the parent of finding widget with text of dark theme.
Oh yeah, that'll be potentially annoying, or maybe it won't be annoying.
Yes.
And we could figure that out. Another option is to give the parent a key, and then we could do a find by key. But I'm really happy to do either, because it'd be interesting to find out how you get the parent. We're really revealing that you and I don't write a lot of widget tests.
Yeah.
The experienced viewers may be pulling their hair out right now.
Maybe we should write more tests. Congratulations, we're writing more tests. We are learning along with you all.
Right, we're trying.
We're trying here. Fine. So what would this find? I'm curious what it would look like. So there's that by key that you're talking about.
Yeah, and there might be text or find text. Yeah.
Widget with text?
Oh,
what does that widget with text do?
That looks worth clicking on the minimum.
Text update. Yeah. So find widget with text. So that's going to take a widget type. So we could give it a text and then the value of it. Oh, wait. Looks for widgets that contain a text descendant with text in it. That's exactly what we want. We want to do the drop-down button with a text of dark theme.
Okay, I like that. Let's do it.
Okay, so that, this changing my hover only sort of worked.
Oh, well. Could give it 2 seconds.
Drop down. Yeah, drop down button drop down menu item, drop down button.
Menu. Well, I don't remember. We should look.
Yeah, it's been 3 seconds since we've looked at it, so of course. Drop down menu item.
Okay.
Drop down menu item.
That looks familiar.
And the text, let's go back to it. I'm just going to copy paste this. I feel like a future episode should be talking about how to store string constants like this.
Yeah, I like that idea. We could localize
for
it
a future
as well.
episode. Exactly. What was I doing? We were trying to, so we found this widget and we want to tap on this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have our final item finder, and I want to tester.tap this item finder.
Yep.
Right?
I think that's right.
Now we expect the controller's value. Do we need to await this tap, by the way? Maybe.
I don't know. It's
it's
a future. It returns future void, so yeah, we should. Which also means we should on line 24. Nice.
Okay. And so now we should be able to say expect.
Yeah, settings view or settings service or whatever the heck it's called.
The
controller.
I guess
is
it's
all
our
that we want
controller.
to.
Controller. Controller dot theme mode. I want to expect that to be theme mode dot values dot.
Well, here we
by
could just say
name.
dark.
I suppose we could use it directly. That's fine.
Or just keep going around the block.
Yeah.
Every
theme
time.
mode dot values dot by name dot theme mode dot dark, right?
Dot name. Would be another dot name.
Dot name. Oh yes, dot name.
Yeah. I don't think that's how the new API was intended.
No, I don't think so either. I'm gonna run Flutter test and see what happens. And now is when everything breaks and we end the episode on a bunch of errors.
That would be so sad.
I know.
Of course it failed.
Well,
that's okay.
It failed. That's fine.
So yeah, what happened?
Test failed. See exception logs above.
That's what we plan to do. Okay.
Yes. What are we doing? Theme could not. Ancestor of text. Let's see. 0 widgets with type. Drop down menu item.
Okay. So our first click didn't work. Our first click failed to fully expand the drop down button. And I don't really have a guess for what we should do now other than Google Flutter test drop down item.
Flutter test drop down button. Hey, it auto completed for me too. Flutter widget test does not trigger drop down button. What does Stack Overflow have for us today?
So this one was actually about the onChanged not firing. We haven't quite gotten this far yet, though there could be something insightful in that post.
How to select a value from a drop-down button using Flutter driver. That's a different...
That's not us either. Oh.
Test framework.
Okay, wait. I actually have a thought for what we should do.
Okay.
And we should go to the actual Flutter repo in GitHub.
The actual Flutter repo.
Yep. Yeah, this is the superpower.
Flutter.
And now code search for drop-down test.
Drop down.
I would write. Do you ever use the T search here? If your focus is not on the search bar, which is a very obvious place for your focus to be when you want to search, now just press the T key. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's great. I love
Drop down
that.
test
Okay.
number 2. Yep. This will surely have an example of what we
surely see. Tell us everything we need to know. I'm gonna make this bigger for you.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Find descendant. Oh, there's the by key.
Yeah, so we did a different version, but should have also worked.
Yeah.
It's a big file. So
this
maybe
is a huge file.
Search for drop down item. And we'll just kind of thumb through those tests.
Down menu item.
There'll be plenty for like that they render correctly and all that, but we want to find one that gets so we'll have to scroll down in some of these tests and see if they're, or if you're just reading the description.
Tester pump widget drop down value should only appear in one menu item. Pump widget drop down button items. That's fine. That's basically what we have, right? We have a material app with a settings view, which has a scaffold, which has a drop-down button. That's what this has.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This one's just expecting
some error if you do something wrong. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. This is doing some stuff. So, what
is this one doing? Drop-down form uses form field state. That kind of sounds like it could be.
Yeah.
So
select value. That's probably like the top of the drop down.
Yeah. Let me pump and settle. Were we awaiting our test, our tap?
I thought we did.
Yeah. Okay. We added that in.
Yeah.
Um,
And then find.text. Yeah, no, that they're, I mean, I would assume find.text is going to also fail because it said it couldn't find a widget with that text value. It would be very weird if the method that we were using didn't work.
yeah.
But I don't know. I mean,
And that's
also, you know what? Calling .parent, like even if there is a .parent attribute, we have no idea how many widgets drop-down item inserts between itself and its child.
yeah.
So what about...
We could try this though to see if it works.
Yeah. That would be a valuable assertion as well. This test will assert that the thing shows up, and then we'll tap on it, and then it will assert that the tap did something. And this is where we could use the expect and then just finds one widget.
Yeah. So this would be expect item finder finds one widget.
Yes, I think that's right.
And based on our previous experience with widget with text, this is probably going to fail, you think?
If it doesn't, I will be surprised. It will basically mean we never understood the previous test method in the first place. Okay, but it does fail.
So it did fail, and it failed with
presumably the same thing. Oh my gosh, no, it got further. It actually, the assertion that failed was about which theme mode. It got out of the controller. So we didn't...
Expected dark found,
Yeah, we didn't understand what that other method was doing. So we could look at that later if we have time, but I think we stay the course on this test.
Yes.
Okay, so now we tapped on the item finder. Oh, is that right? Do we tap on the item finder? Or do we... Well, the linter is happy about it. Which suggests it's probably right. Like I was wondering, is it the item finder that we pass to tap? But the linter is happy about it, so it's probably correct.
I mean, here in the framework test, that's what's happening. So
oh, look at it says dot last.
Oh, dot last. Well, but this one seems to... Oh, the select value is probably on the drop-down button itself. 3 is probably one of the items in the... Yeah, in the actual list.
I'm a little confused here.
But what if we did this? So let's try this actually. I don't know why.
Yeah. How do both of those lines compile? There must be some interestingness going on with item finder and what it yields.
Yeah.
Whether it's like the same, it's like a parent class of itself or something.
Still fails. Do we fail at the same thing?
Yes.
Yes. Expected dark got system.
Okay. There was an issue about onChange not firing. And that may be where we are.
That's true.
I wonder.
Yeah. So what does that have to say? Does not trigger onChange when selecting another item. What do you say? Let's just scroll down all the way to the bottom of the source code. Expect find by key. We tap on the item and we call pump twice.
Yeah, I hate when I have to do those kind of hacks.
Oof. That to me smells like having a test that has a sleep in it.
Yeah, which
that
is every
you
now
have
and
to
then
progressively,
but it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, we can try it just to see if it works. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. Another option, parallel, not competing with the option you just said, we could wrap our unchanged variable in the settings view file, like put a lambda around that, put a print statement in there, and just
just see if it runs.
Yeah. It seems like it's not going to print.
Let's try that. Which syntax of anonymous function am I going to use?
Not that one.
Not that one?
Wait, does Dart use this? Am I out of my mind?
I don't know.
Oh, no, we do use that.
The arrow curly braces?
I was looking at JavaScript with a friend over the weekend as well. And boy, it's funny how you can't hold two languages in your head at the same time.
Oh, I know. I know.
Yeah, I think we want we only use the arrows when there's no curlies. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
JavaScript puts the arrows that you were typing. Yeah, this looks good.
Yeah. Where are we? Can't be assigned to the
because we
takes
need
a theme mode.
The parameter, right?
What is it? Just call it mode.
Sure. Yep.
And then we'll pass in the mode here.
Yeah, nice.
And why are you complaining? Print string avoid in production code. Okay, good thing this is not production code. Okay.
Take that, linter.
We're almost out of time, but hopefully this at least gives us something. We're printing. Hopefully we're running our tests. Waiting.
Rats. Oh, let's read this. There's a thing there. There's a sentence in that error that is trying to help us. Right there. To silence this warning, pass warn if missed false to tap. To make this warning fatal, set widgets controller.hitTest should be fatal to true. Okay, this is like the conclusion of something else. So let's keep, warning. Call to tap with Finder, exactly one widget with text arc theme. Derived an offset that would
not hit test on the specified widget. Maybe the widget is off screen or another widget is obscuring it.
That's it. So this suggests the ugly duration thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's try it, I guess.
So after we do this pump and settle, we want to do maybe another tester.pump with a duration of 1 second. If my dot actually works, duration seconds 1.
Mm-hmm.
Did I do this right?
Yeah, it just wants const.
On the duration. Const.
Very good.
Go. And let's add another one down here. Let's wait. Actually, let's do this first. Now it's going to take a second longer to run this test.
Oh, that might be a virtualized second. I forget. I think the tester is willing to run the clock as fast as it wants.
We still failed, still with exactly the same errors, it looks like.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to actually carefully read maybe that Stack Overflow post, maybe something else, but you've mentioned that we're out of time. So
we are over
for a future adventure.
So I think cleaning this up is going to be our future adventure, and then maybe we can talk about string literals.
Nice. I like it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we didn't quite get something complete, but we made progress on making more UI tests. You're learning along with us on figuring out these test things. And hopefully that was somewhat enlightening in some way.
Oh, I have an idea. Viewers,
We're trying to close out.
No, I know, but it's a closeout idea. Viewers, if you know what we need to do, write it in a comment.
Excellent.
Right, Fitz?
Absolutely.
All right, now I'm ready to close out.
Leave us a comment. We'll figure it out together, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you, everybody.
Bye.